Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are above replacement radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball, kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Giant. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. It is mid-September. It is everyone's favorite baseball Sunday of the year, and that's because, we're getting close to the end of the season. A lot of these games mean a lot for playoff implications. It's one of people's favorite days to watch baseball throughout the year on the day that we're recording this podcast on a Sunday. So a lot of fun stuff going on. We got a good slate of games today, starting with Orioles versus Rays in Baltimore at 12:05. For Sunday Night Baseball tonight, we got Astros D-backs, Justin Verlander versus Ryan Nelson. You could argue Justin Verlander tonight is making the biggest start of his Mets career by facing the Diamondbacks for the Astros tonight.
That is, indeed. There is a good connection there as, the Mets are figuring out seeding and whatnot because the Mets, there's been a very big movement going on since the last time we recorded in the National League playoff race. As you know, the last time we recorded, the Braves were kind of comfortably in a wild card spot, and now they aren't. The Mets are in that spot, taking the I believe the current 6th seed in the National League playoff picture. The Mets are in a 9-game winning streak. They've taken advantage of a little bit of poorer competition. They've faced the White Sox in the span. They swept the Red Sox, who are struggling mightily in the span, but overall they've gotten the job done, won 9 in a row, and are currently in a playoff spot.
Yeah, and this span goes beyond, the last 9 games for the Mets. If you go back to August 14th, the Mets are 17-6. That's a .739 winning percentage and comfortably the best record in Major League Baseball in that span. They have a .739 winning percentage, but also a 713 Pythagorean win-loss, which is also the best in Major League Baseball throughout this span. They have only allowed 70 runs since August 14th, and that is the lowest in Major League Baseball. So the pitching's been getting it done. One thing that I noticed in this span is that the bullpen has been phenomenal with keeping the ball in the yard throughout the span. I believe the bullpen as a unit since August 14th has 0.4 home runs per 9 allowed, which is, obviously phenomenal. You have guys like Edwin Diaz, of course, coming out of that bullpen. Reed Garrett's been a lot better after he struggled a bit. So the Mets have been a very exciting team. And I feel like, I don't know, I just get this vibe that baseball is a lot more fun when the Mets are good. And it's been a lot of fun to watch over the last few weeks here with them.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I feel like no matter what time in baseball the Mets have been good, it's been enjoyable going back to I remember 2015, their playoff run. They were extremely fun to watch, and it was just good energy. It just kind of felt right. And also it's nice because they have one of the, there's such not negative connotations surrounding them all the time because of their history and everything that's kind of happened since 1986. So it's good to see them get out ahead and kind of be on the winning side of things every so often. So yeah, it's good to see. And yeah, as you mentioned, their pitching has been pretty unreal in this span, and particularly they have the lowest ERA in baseball in this span. They have a 1.65 ERA during this 9-game winning streak, and they're a good FIP to match as well. Their 2.52 FIP is also the best in baseball during this win streak. Individually, they've been powered by Jose Quintana, who's made 2 starts in the span, 0.77 ERA and 2.41 FIP. In the span. David Peterson had an excellent start against the Red Sox. I know that he struck out 11, but overall has had 2 starts, 13 innings, 2.08 ERA and 2.57 FIP. And yeah, Sean Manaea's got a 2.63 ERA. Yeah, their bullpen has been absolutely excellent. It seems like their bullpen is not allowing anything. I'm just double checking on the team rankings here. If it'll let me go. Yeah, their bullpen has been absolutely excellent. They have a 0.66 ERA and 1.72 FIP during this 9-game winning streak. So yeah, pitching has been excellent, and bullpen especially has been otherworldly. So yeah, so that's kind of what's been powering them. Offense has been good, but not anything crazy. It's really been their pitching.
Another thing that's just been kind of happening, you mentioned the pitching, and the offense has been solid too. But the one thing that's really stood out to me is that Francisco Lindor is really having his moment here. I mean, he was doubted for quite a long time by Mets fans in 2021, parts of 2022. He was solid and very quietly solid, I think, in 2023. But he's been doing it, in a much louder way, I would say, this year. Going back to August 14th, the date I mentioned, he has the highest FWAR in Major League Baseball among all position players, 1.9. The next highest is 1.5. He has a 191 weighted runs created plus in this span. He's obviously playing Gold Glove defense like he always does. His base running has been solid. I think it's just very cool to see him finally having this moment where he is, an on-field leader of a meaningful Mets team that is, looking to go to the playoffs with a definitive, guy in that lineup. I think that's what we've kind of waited for Francisco Lindor to be for a very long time. He hasn't really been that since his Cleveland days. We're seeing it in the bigger market now, and for all the criticism that he faced early on in his Mets tenure, I think it means a lot for baseball to see him playing this role on this kind of Mets team.
Yeah, 100%. And that criticism did not stop, a couple of years ago. There was some of it this year because he appeared to be, and I say this intentionally, he appeared to be struggling early in the year when in reality he was just hitting hard hit line drives right into gloves. Just looking at where his rate statistics were at in like mid-May. Yeah, May 20th, he was hitting 193 with a 616 OPS. I don't have, the expected stats pulled up, but I know they were way higher than what his actual numbers were. And if anything, it should teach everyone a little bit about patience and the fact that, it would be one thing if he was having a 30% strikeout rate and hitting the ball softly during this time. But no, he was, his process was wonderful at the time. He was still doing great work in terms of hitting the ball hard, hitting line drives, making a lot of contact. I know he was doing that. So yeah, if anything, like if anytime someone complains about, someone doing quote unquote poorly when in actuality they're getting unlucky, we can always kind of point to this example. Let's not forget Francisco Lindor was had a 616 OPS in the first like 40 games of what's probably going to be an MVP finalist season from him. So yeah, I mean, this is why you got to pay attention to these things, because neither of us were shocked when Francisco Lindor had this turnaround starting around that time, and that's a large reason because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it feels very vindicating for myself, you, and a lot of other baseball fans that really, banged on the Francisco Lindor drum early this season, preseason, last season as well, because we're finally seeing it in its best possible form, right? I mean, if you could picture Francisco Lindor's like 90th percentile possible season, I think that's kind of exactly what we're seeing. And that's even, with that slow start that you're mentioning. I want to give you some more numbers for him since August 14th. In that span, not only is he hitting well, but the expected numbers are reflecting that finally. There are since August 14th, there are 261 hitters with at least 50 plate appearances. And in that span, Francisco Lindor ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th, tied for 10th among them in expected batting average at 323. He ranks third in expected slugging behind just Aaron Judge and Yordan Alvarez at 696. It literally goes Aaron Judge, Yordan Alvarez, Francisco Lindor. So, I mean, the definitive two best hitters in the league, and then him outside of maybe Bobby Witt Jr. And then in ex-WOBA, he is also third behind Jordan and Judge. So I mean, not only has he been this Gold Glove defender with good base running metrics that we've known him to be, but he's also been an elite hitter by pretty much all possible metrics.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's to go from, having a 616 OPS over a not an insignificant span, leading up to May 20th, to go from that to and having an 837 OPS now, you gotta be absolutely balling out for 3 months and 3.5 months, and that's exactly what he's been doing. And yeah, going even bigger picture on Francisco Lindor. I know it's not a full Lindor segment, but he's at 49.1 Baseball Reference WAR right now, and I'm sure he's somewhere around that with Fangraphs. So I think that Hall of Fame conversation, it's getting closer to red zone, or even a couple years away from saying that he's in right now. I wouldn't say he's in right now at the current moment, but I think he's getting kind of close.
And I feel like if this continues, we need to start having MVP conversations. I know that it probably won't happen because, if Shohei Ohtani gets 50-50, it's probably a done deal. I think there's going to be a very strong case for people like you and me to make on Francisco Lindor for winning the MVP this year. I know Shohei has him in virtually every offensive metric, if we're talking full year. But, the difference in Francisco Lindor's elite defense at shortstop versus Shohei Ohtani's being a DH, I think is a very fair thing to bring into the conversation. Shohei is obviously not pitching this year, so that's not a part of the equation. But I think, come year's end, there should be a very real discussion that's had between these two.
Yeah, it is a very interesting discussion, and Fangraphs wins above replacement reflects that. I mean, Francisco Lindor is the leader among all National League players in FWAR, and he's ahead of Ohtani by almost a full win. He's ahead by 0.7. And yeah, I mean, Ohtani has him in, the main batting stat, weighted runs created plus, according to, the main batting stat for WAR. And he also has him in BSR, surprisingly enough, with 6.7 as opposed to 4. Mm-hmm. So that gap is entirely defense. Francisco Lindor only has him in defense, but with how much defensive value he has compared to Ohtani, that apparently makes up more than enough to make him more valuable according to wins above replacement. And yeah, it's not the WAR award, we know, and Shohei Ohtani has been tremendously valuable, but I think it is a discussion to have, and a discussion that most people won't have. But yeah, it's something. Yeah, as you mentioned, I think it's something we'll talk about for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I also want to talk about another guy who's been excellent for the Mets, and a guy that I think has been a major part of kind of this team's turnaround, not just for him personally, but for the team. Mark Vientos, happily my Mets player to watch, one of my best choices this year, has been. I mean, if you put the plate appearances down to 350, he's been the best offensive third baseman in baseball this year. He has an 899 OPS. I believe he leads in weighted runs created plus among all third basemen with at least 350 plate appearances. So he's been big for them all year. He has a 15.4% barrel rate. His average exit velocity is 91.1 miles an hour. His expected slugging is over 500. So, I mean, to see the turn that Mark Vientos has taken this year has obviously been huge for the Mets. And it's been very cool to see. I mean, I feel like it's been a while since the Mets have really developed a superstar player. You could probably say since Pete Alonso. By weighted runs created plus, it's pretty similar between Alonso in 2019 and Vientos in 2024. That just says more about the offensive environments at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, Vientos only 24 years old, which is good to see him succeed. And yeah, it's good to have one of those guys from the Mets system come out and have immediate success like this. Well, not immediate, but
not immediate, yeah. It took him a couple years,
but have relatively success relatively soon in their career, because so far with some of the guys that looked promising coming up have not really delivered quite yet. whether it be Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty. I don't even think, Ronnie Mauricio. It's not Ronnie Mauricio, right? I always
Yeah,
mix
well, he
him.
got hurt
Yeah,
for
he
his
hasn't
ACL, I believe.
he hasn't been, at the MLB level yet, I believe.
Mhm.
Or if he has, it's been a very brief amount of time. So, we were talking about the Mets system, 2 years ago and how, they have a lot of guys coming up, but luckily Vientos has kind of vilified that to some extent and, made an impact on this 2024 team. I'm sure, some of those other guys are going to make that impact soon enough, but it's good that Vientos has been able to do it at least this year.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. In 2019, Pete Alonso had a 144 OP or weighted runs created plus. At Vientos this year uh, is why is this thing not going away? Is at 150,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which
No, it.
Pete Alonso's OPS was way higher. It's just 2019 versus 2024 league offense.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Pete
But
had a 941 OPS. Vientos has a 899 OPS, and Vientos has a higher OPS or weighted runs created plus, and I would imagine OPS plus too.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and also, yeah, over 350 plate appearances that's not, an insignificant number. That's, at least half a season. And it'll probably end up by the end of the year having around 400, I would imagine. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I mean, very, very cool stuff from the Mets. And I'm trying to, in terms of what they look like for the rest of the season, they do actually have the third hardest remaining strength of schedule. The Braves, meanwhile, are trying to find where they're at. I think they're probably middle of the pack here. Yeah, Atlanta's 17th hardest. So I'm trying to see like what obstacles might the
I
Mets
believe they
run
play each
into.
other again.
They play each other
Oh, they
again
do.
once more. It'll be the
Okay,
second to last series of the season, and it's a three
that could
gamer.
be that could be a very fun series to have on people's radars.
Yes, that's going to be a fun one. It's middle of the week, so Tuesday through Thursday.
Sure.
Um, the Mets play Philly twice.
Oh,
They play a weekend series the 13th through the 15th, and then another week, and then a 4-game series where the Mets will be hosting them from the 19th through the 22nd. Unfortunately for the Mets, I don't think the division's going to be wrapped up by then, so the Phillies will
mhm.
definitely be playing for something. And even if the division
Aiming
is
for the
wrapped up, I
seeding.
think
Yeah.
there's going to be seeding involved. One of the things that the strength of schedule is not accounting for is the Mets are facing the Brewers in the final series in Milwaukee, and I'm sure the Brewers are probably gonna. I don't know if they're gonna be
It depends.
fully.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
kind of
if
depends.
they're, I mean, playoff seeding could be a question because they are kind of right up there with the Dodgers and Phillies in terms of overall record, and I'm sure that team would love to not play in the wild card series.
Um, yes, yes,
Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, they would. So yeah, it kind of depends on how
I
that
think it's
goes. So,
also, I think it's very funny that the Mets season starts and ends with the Brewers.
um, oh yeah, yeah, you rarely see that with
Yeah,
non-division teams.
exactly. Yeah, it's the whole season is like a sandwich with the Brewers as the bread,
Yep.
or the Mets as the bread if you're the Brewers.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. Meanwhile, Atlanta has a game against Toronto, a game against Cincinnati, then a 2-game series against Washington. They host the Dodgers, then they go on the road to the Reds and to Cincinnati and Miami.
They
They
played
host the Mets, as we mentioned, and then they finish their season against the Royals, who are probably going to be playing for seeding at that point.
Yeah, or just the playoffs entirely. Who knows?
Who knows? Hopefully, as Red Sox fans, and
Yeah,
maybe the Red Sox won't be the ones in the way. Maybe it'll be the Tigers or the Mariners. But yeah. But yeah. So yeah, it looks like it should be exciting. No one's crowning the Mets right now, but it's cool that they're in a playoff spot.
yeah. I mean, it's been a like I think we've said this before on the podcast, but in hindsight, the Mets are the team that should have had the Netflix documentary.
Oh yeah, big
No
time.
matter what happens.
Yeah, and then there's the story about Netflix not being there for some of the most pivotal points of the Red Sox season. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it definitely should have been
Like
on the Mets this year.
between like the fight with Reese Hoskins early in the season, the like the bad start, Jorge Lopez throwing his glove into the crowd, and the whole media fiasco, which wasn't his fault, but that whole thing, OMG, Grimace, the gay Mets, this whole summer, and where we're at now, the Mark Vientos walk off home run was definitely a major moment.
I mean, Netflix should have signed like a 10 season contract with the Mets because I feel like every year
Like
you
10
can.
years ago, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. As soon as the
starting in 2015
yeah,
and
they
ending
should
right
have as
there.
soon as like Netflix started as a company, they should have done this with the Mets.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
That should have been like the end goal of Netflix as a brand is eventually follow the New York Mets.
yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, it's fun stuff going on over there in Flushing. But anything more about the Mets?
No, I think that's it.
Anything we wanted to talk about outside of that
I
leading
did. I wanted
into
to talk about another third baseman outside of Mark Vientos, one who is
yeah.
getting his money. Matt Chapman received a very nice contract extension from the San Francisco Giants. He's very quietly having a very solid season for himself. Kind of, very much the vibes of like prime, like late 2010s with the A's, Matt Chapman. Uh, this happened, I believe, on Thursday. He was given a 6-year, $151 million extension starting in 2025. It's an average annual value of 25 million. And it's going to be like, it's not backloaded, front loaded. It's going to be the same amount of money from ages, 32 through 3, 4, 5, 6,
37.
37.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this one, Chris?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting and like I'm wondering like what impact might this have on the free agent market because yeah, as we talked about endlessly, like the free agent market was so weird last year, it was kind of controlled ultimately by Scott Boras and we kind of the Chapman deal was one of those deals where it was like, wow, that's kind of weird that he's only getting this much for only getting this length of contract. I think it was a 3-year deal. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess the Giants are, have dictated, have redictated the market for him. And they're not allowing him to opt out now, which is good for them. But yeah, I just find it all interesting how like now he's getting the $150 million contract on an extension, not even after 1 year with the team and not in free agent market. It might be kind of a spotlight into how weird the free agent market has been. So, but I mean it's something that he certainly deserves. I mean, he's I think only improved this year. His expected numbers have gone up. His defense has increasingly gotten better since 2022 when it kind of took a step back. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like he's really slowing down quite yet. So, and the Giants have the financial flexibility. They know they can kind of sign guys. They're a big market team, and they definitely want to improve and do better than they're doing now. So, yeah, it's just a good move, and it's a move that the Giants specifically could make.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Matt Chapman that's kind of interesting is that for the most part, the output that we've seen from him this year has been kind of to be expected, I would say. I mean, it is his highest, he is having his highest F4 season since 2019. He's already well surpassed every season he had in Toronto, and then also that last year he had in Oakland. 4.6 F4 this year. The defense has kind of gone back to where we're used to seeing it. The offense has finally translated to what the expected numbers have been saying on him for years, which is very nice to see. His strikeout rate has gone down to its lowest point since 2019. And I mean, I think I wonder. I mean, I'm sure there are internal models that were telling this beforehand, but like his bat speed and a lot of the underlying metrics say that he's elite, right? Like average exit velocity, he's been top 5 in the league for the last several years at this point now. Bat speed came out, he's 98th percentile in that. There's been a lot of just major improvements on offense this year. And there's a lot to be excited about with Matt Chapman going forward. And I think the Giants have kind of struggled in the last maybe half decade to find like true cornerstone position players, right? Like they had Buster Posey for a while, but he retired. They had Brandon Crawford, but then he well, I didn't he retire officially like a few weeks ago? Did I miss that? That thing happened?
Possibly. I might have missed that.
He's not in the organization anymore, but Matt Chapman, along with Jung Hoo Lee, are two guys that they've committed to position player wise. In the last year that they envisioned as part of this team for the future.
And yeah, it's good to get, long-term pieces after, the infamous offseason leading into the 2023 season that the Giants had. Not getting Judge, not getting Correa after, that whole ordeal. So yeah, it's good that the Giants have finally kind of caught up, gotten some long-term pieces. Maybe not the pieces that they were, maybe not the size of maybe not the magnitude of player that they were looking for, but I mean, Matt Chapman's going to be a good piece to have. Also, I couldn't help but notice, and this is a comparison to a guy before our time, but it's just something about third base, Matt in San Francisco, Matt Williams. Matt Williams, and very similar archetype of player, third baseman, pretty good offensively, but also very good defensively. With the Giants, Matt Williams had a 122 OPS plus and 8.6 D WAR in 10 years with the team. I'm sure Matt Chapman outpaces him a little bit on defense, but it's I couldn't help but think like, oh, this is a very similar archetype of player. I'm sure Matt Williams was pretty underrated when he was playing. So yeah, I mean, I think that's fun that, Matt Chapman's going to be a long-term third baseman the same way Matt Williams was, because it seems like they were, I didn't see Matt Williams play, but I'm sure they're a very similar type of player. But yeah, good for the Giants here. I'm hoping it works out. I'm sure with Matt Chapman and his general consistency, I'm sure it should work out to some degree.
Yeah, and the Giants are making this move, kind of into Matt Chapman's 30s, right? I mean, he's in his age 31 season now. This deal goes from ages 32 to 37. So obviously, he might not be the same player by the end of that contract as he is now. But, I think the encouraging thing is, a lot of people might look at this signing and think, okay, Matt Chapman has a 118 weighted runs created plus this year. Why are we giving $150 million to a guy that can't get above 120 in a down year offensively? And to that, I would say, first of all, the market's changed, right? I mean, that's, guys get a lot more money, generally speaking, now than they used to. But secondly, the Giants really only need Matt Chapman to be what he's been offensively. They don't need him to be a number 3 bat in the lineup. I mean, he kind of has been throughout the last few months. He got off to a rough start this season, but has been excellent throughout the last few months, and I believe ranks like 5th among position players in the National League in FWAR this season. So I mean, all things considered, he's very good. But all of his, like I mentioned earlier, all of his underlying statistics, I feel like they show that he's capable of doing what he's doing now well into this contract.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about the bat speed, and the exit velocity also reflects that. The barrel rate reflects that. I mean, yeah, he's just looking at it, 79th percentile expected WOBA, which is kind of the ultimate expected stat, but 96th percentile average exit velocity, 98th percentile bat speed, 83rd percentile barrel rate, 88th percentile hard hit percentage. Yeah, I mean, things look like, it's not like he's shown that he's slowing down yet. So it's not like anything we're freaking out about is hypothetical so far. And just talking general about kind of the biases we have against guys going into their 30s.
Since May 11th, Matt Chapman is slashing 267, 363, 491 for an 853 OPS. And that's only with a 320 BABIP. So it's not like he's getting outrageously lucky in this span. He has 27 doubles and 18 home runs over his last 100 games played, which puts him on a per 162 game play pace of 44 doubles and 29 home runs with elite defense.
Yeah, exactly. He has the potential to be one of the best players in the game when he's performing well offensively. And yeah, last thing I'll kind of say on the Chapman deal, and maybe I hope it doesn't work in the reverse, but I think it can work this way, is that signing a deal like this can put the pressure on the Giants organization to do more in the offseason,
Hmm.
because it's like, okay, we've committed to a guy, we've committed to guys like Lee and guys like Chapman. We need to
Webb.
make sure that we're winning. And yeah, Logan Webb as well. We need to make sure that we're winning and spending this money for a reason. So let's go out and get more guys. I'm hoping that, for the Giants' sake that they do that, but you never quite know.
Yeah, since May 11th, like I mentioned earlier, Matt Chapman ranks second in the National League among all position players in F4 at 4.4. He ranks above Ellie De La Cruz. He ranks above Shohei Ohtani, Jackson Merrill, Ketel Marte, guys that have been involved in the MVP conversation. The only person, of course, ahead of him is Francisco Lindor, like we mentioned earlier. So, I mean, I think the signing is coming at the right time. I'm happy that Matt Chapman got his money because, obviously this offseason, I'm sure was very frustrating for him and going into early this season. He stayed with Boris, which I think is, not everyone did that. Jordan Montgomery, expressed his frustration with what happened in the offseason and has since changed over to Wasserman. Chapman stayed with Boris, and Scott Boris eventually did get him his money, even if it took longer than it maybe should have.
Yeah, indeed,
I don't know,
indeed.
and I don't know what the I'd have to look more into this. I don't know what like kind of contracts he was offered uh this past off season, but I feel like if he got signed to 6 years and 151 million uh last winter, none of us would be too shocked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say necessarily, but I think I'd be a little surprised at least at the dollar number.
Yeah,
Because yeah, 6-year deal I wouldn't be too shocked by, but considering I guess what he had done maybe the
the
previous
year
two
before, but he
years,
also was unlucky in many ways.
right? I'm trying to fully analyze this. What was he at? He had yeah, he had 3 F4 the year before, 3.9.
He had like a very reverse season in 2023. He had a phenomenal April and then was not as good the rest of the way.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I would have been surprised at the dollar amount, I think, but
That's
yeah.
fair. But,
Uh,
I mean, I don't know, given the contracts that a lot of people have gotten to play like right side of the infield positions over the last few years, Matt Chapman, that feels kind of right in line. Like, Xander Bogart's got 280, Lindor got like 340. And I know I'm naming shortstops, but I mean, third base is there right there as well. But Devers
yeah,
got over 300 mil. Ross and Riley got 200 something mil.
yeah, on yeah, for 10 years, and
We're
that
not
was
going to talk
also
about
covering
Jose Ramirez.
arbitration. Yeah, it feels unfair to talk about Jose Ramirez. That was
Yeah.
such a flop on his agency's part. Um, but yeah, also shout out Chapman. He decided to steal 14 bases this year and
Yeah.
counting, for no reason at all. But yeah,
Felt like it.
anything anything more on the Chapman deal?
No, I think that's all we had on that. Good for him. Very happy that he got it. And I do wonder if the Giants have explored doing something similar with Blake Snell because he's been excellent for them in the second half of the season. Um, he has a $30 million player option next year, which I assume he's either going to take or the Giants are going to come and say, "Hey, let's restructure that."
Yeah, yeah, there's got to be something going on there.
But who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, I guess that does it for the current events of Major League Baseball. Now we
Yeah.
will get into the part we've most prepared for, our players to highlight, starting with the lows, so we end with the highs. And yeah, we will be doing our Sunday, September 8, 2024 edition of Slightly Alarming Statistics. He's been barreling up the ball way less.
He's not missing bats. He's not getting the ball on the ground, and people are hitting it in the air more.
It's been so bad. He is getting a
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, so for my slightly alarming today, I don't know if I put this guy as a how about that. I feel like I might have, but he also might have been not eligible at one point this year. But I'm talking about Stephen Kwan, who has struggled quite mightily over the last nearly 1 month. Since August 13th, Stephen Kwan is slashing 132, 240, 154 for a 394 OPS, a 22 weighted runs created plus, and minus 0.5 F-WAR. Among the 173 qualifiers in this span, Stephen Kwan ranks third worst in batting average, dead last in slugging percentage, second worst in OPS, second worst in weighted runs created plus, and tied for second worst in F-WAR. Throughout this span, his average exit velocity has been 84.7 miles per hour. That is the 16th lowest among the 172 hitters that have had at least 50 batted balls in this span. Kwan has maintained an above average fly ball rate throughout the span, which is kind of done all season. I believe it's around 28%, but the distribution of the limited power that he already has been a severe problem for him. Before the span, 32.6% of his fly balls were pulled, and in the span, it is only 8.7% of his fly balls that have been pulled. That is a very drastic decrease for a guy that already doesn't have a lot of power and really not enough to go deep to the opposite field or to, especially in Cleveland, or to, straightaway center. He has 23 fly balls in the span, and he is 0 for 23. He has not gotten a single hit on any of them. His pop-up rate has also gone from 5.3% before the span to 12.6% in this span. 38% of his batted balls throughout the span have been fly balls or pop-ups that have been below the hard hit threshold of 95 miles an hour. 38% of his batted balls have been in the air and not, hit hard enough to be over the fence. That is the second highest rate on the aforementioned list of 172. Interestingly enough, number one on that list is his Oregon State teammate, Adley Rutschman. His line drive rate has gone from 27.8% before the span to just 24% in the span, and his sweet spot rate has gone from 40.8% before the span to 34.1% in this span. So Stephen Kwan, the lack of strikeouts is still there. He's actually been improving his walk rate, but the quality of contact has gone down quite severely, and the distribution of power has gone down quite severely. Because of that, he is getting a slightly alarming.
Yeah, Stephen Kwan.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah. One of the hot starts had a very hot start to the year. He was 2024's Luis Rise for a little bit.
He was.
With a little bit of pop too. But yeah, unfortunately has slowed down quite a bit for the past few weeks. My slightly alarming, we're gonna stay in the AL Central. This guy also got off to a crazy hot start to his year. But he is slowed down, and I'm talking about Royce Lewis, who in his last 21 games is hitting .205 with a .523 OPS. Out of 173 qualifiers in the span, his on-base percentage is 5th lowest and OPS is 12th lowest. And out of 154 hitters with 300 plus pitches seen in the span, his expected WOBA is the 6th lowest. Part of this has to do with him getting the base on balls less. His walk rate has gone from 11% to 4%. And that is because his chase rate has gone from 29% before the span to 41%. And out of 162 hitters with 150 plus pitches seen out of the zone, Royce Lewis's chase rate is the 4th highest. And he's not succeeding when he is swinging out of the zone. When he swings out of the zone, he's hitting and slugging 115 in this span. And also, he is hitting the ball softer. His average exit velocity has gone from 88.2 miles per hour to 86.6 miles per hour. Partially due to this, his barrel rate has gone from 16% to 8%. But more glaringly, he's gone from pulling 51% of his fly balls to pulling 25% of them. So he's pulling less than half the fly balls that he used to. And because of this and his average exit velocity, his home run to fly ball ratio has gone from 37% before the span to 5% in the span. Also, in other fronts on the batted ball front, he is not doing very well. His ground ball rate has gone from 34% to 41%, and his line drive rate has gone from 23% to 16%. And out of 172 hitters with 50 plus batted balls in the span, his line drive rate is 16th lowest. So yeah, Royce Lewis, he's got to come back down to earth. Still over, his overall year numbers are still pretty good. They're at, I think, is at a 134 OPS plus, but it used to be a lot higher. And that is because in his last 23 games, he is hitting the ball softer, chasing more pitches, not pulling his fly balls, and that is why Royce Lewis is getting A.
Slightly alarming.
And yeah, now we will go from the lows to the highs, where we were talking players and subjects that are outperforming expectations. So we will be doing our Sunday, September 8th, 2024 edition of How About That.
He's striking out less, walking more, and he's also making better contact.
Turning into a strikeout machine just out of nowhere.
He's been excellent all around this year.
And he is getting a...
How about that?
Yeah, so for my how about that, this is long overdue. This guy should have been talked about probably 2 months ago, but we're finally getting to it now because something really just needed to be said about Lawrence Butler. Because I mean, what a job this guy has done. Since July 1st, he is slashing 327, 366, 687 for a 1053 OPS, a 194 weighted runs created plus, and 3.4 FWAR. His 3.4 FWAR ranks 4th in all of baseball in that span, trailing just Bobby Witt Jr., Francisco Lindor, and Aaron Judge. 3 guys that are probably going to finish at least top 2 in MVP voting, and Lawrence Butler is trailing right behind them. He ranks 6th best in weighted runs created plus in the span, 3rd highest in slugging, 6th highest in OPS, and he has the highest ISO, 360. That is slugging percentage minus batting average. So it shows the extra base hit factor. Among the 127 hitters with at least 200 plate appearances in this span, Lawrence Butler also ranks tied for 9th in expected batting average at 308, 7th in expected slugging at 621, and tied for 8th in expected WOBA at 408. So by all stretches, he's been an elite hitter over the last 2.5 months at this point, basically. Before this span, Lawrence Butler had a 30.6% strikeout rate, and in this span, his strikeout rate is down to 17.7%. He had 46 strikeouts in his first 150 plate appearances this season and 41 strikeouts in his last 232 plate appearances, just to put it in a non-rate perspective. His whiff rate has also gone from 32.1% before the span to 21.2% in this span. His chase rate has decreased slightly, but his whiff rate on chases has gone from 48.9% before the span to just 36.9% in this span. That is a 12% decrease. His barrel rate has gone from 6.7 before the span to 15.9% in this span, the 5th highest among the 92 hitters with at least 150 batted balls in this span. His hard hit rate has gone from 44.9% before the span to 51.7% in this span, the 9th highest on that aforementioned list of 92. His exit velocity on fly balls has gone from 93.6 miles per hour to 96.2 miles per hour. And because of this increase, his home run to fly ball ratio has gone from just 4% before the span to 10.2% in this span. I noticed Lawrence Butler around April had some pretty interesting underlying numbers that weren't quite falling in line with his actual numbers. And I was thinking about him as maybe a potential player to watch next year if this continued throughout the season. But I think he's kind of exited that point of eligibility with what he's done since July 1st. He looks like a legitimately generational hitter, probably a guy that could sneak into the Curran and Giunta 50s next year if possible.
Indeed. I'm sure he'll make at least a positional list.
Oh, no doubt a positional, yeah.
Yeah, he's been absolutely excellent. Lawrence Butler.
How about that?
And yeah, I was under the same line of thinking. I was like, yeah, it's been way too long that we've talked about this guy. And yeah, I also picked him out. However, also I kind of divvied my research. I understand he's had a lot of success since the beginning of July, but isolated.
You can go multiple spans with this one.
Yeah, there's a multi-span possibility, you know. So yeah, I'll just kind of break down what I was looking at. And yeah, I kind of went into multiple spans. In his last 55 games, he's hitting 325 with a 1051 OPS. Out of 156 qualifiers in the span, his average ranks 8th, slugging ranks 3rd, and OPS ranks 5th. And out of 125 hitters to see 750 plus pitches in the span, his expected batting average ranks 7th, expected slugging ranks 6th, and expected WOBA ranks 6th. But yeah, as I mentioned, he's been really turning it up recently. In his last 17 of these games, he is hitting 400 with a 1275 OPS. And out of 176 qualifiers in this span, he leads all of baseball in average slugging and OPS. And out of 84 hitters with 250 plus pitches seen in this span, his expected batting average, expected slugging, and expected WOBA all rank first. And part of this has to do with, as you mentioned, that drop in strikeout rate. His strikeout rate before the 17 game span was 26%, and in this span, it is 8%. And out of 176 qualifiers in this span, his strikeout rate is the 6th lowest. Also, his whiff rate has gone from 29% to 13%. And out of 169 hitters to see 200 plus pitches, his whiff rate is the 10th lowest. And then along with that, his increase in contact rate has not decreased his quality of contact. His barrel rate has gone from 10% to 20%. And out of 169 hitters, his barrel rate per batted ball ranks 5th, and his barrel rate per plate appearance ranks 1st. He's also tied for the most barrels overall in the 17 game span. And then along with actually getting the barrels, he is also hitting them to the right locations. His rate of fly balls being pulled has gone from 16% before the span to 47% in this span. And out of 134 hitters with 10 plus fly balls, his rate of fly balls being pulled is 9th highest. Part of this, partially due to this, his home run to fly ball ratio has gone from 19% to 27%. And then away from, generally away from fly balls, he's also just getting better launch angle distribution. His sweet spot rate has also gone from 35% to 42%. Yeah, Lawrence Butler, from both of us, he's been excellent. He's been excellent the past 2 months. He's been excellent the past 3 weeks. It's really been something to watch, and I'm sure A's fans, not much to be excited for right now, but Lawrence Butler is not a reason why. So yeah, Lawrence Butler.
How about that?
All right, that does it for players to highlight. Now into our final segment is Baseball
Yeah, if
Savant
there's by the way, if there's like one thing that we've added to the repertoire of things we look for in How About That and Slightly Alarming this year, percent of fly balls being pulled was such a huge increase, a thing for both of us this year, which I'm very glad to have added.
Yeah, 2024 is the year of the pull the fly ball for us. I feel like each year we kind of add at least one new thing.
2021 was the entire Savant search.
Yeah, no, 2021, that was a big year for us. And then yeah, we've kind of added some things, and this year it's been pulled fly balls, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's something that you can't help but notice of oh, why is he outperforming his expected numbers? Oh, it's because he's pulling the crap out of these fly
really
balls.
opened my eye.
Yes.
My third eye.
Yeah, me as well.
Him in 2023 Lane Thomas as well.
I was like, how does he have 60 more points of actual WOBA when his BABIP is 270?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, that makes sense.
That's how it works. Got it.
That's how it works.
So as Chris was getting into, it is time for Savant Trivia. I made the game today, and I think Savant Trivia has just become a game of how many games can I create using videos of fly balls, because that's what we're doing again today, but I am debuting a new game. So I have 8 new fly balls that have been hit at some point this season that I'm going to be showing Chris. All of them are home runs. Chris is going to be deciding whether or not the home runs that I'm showing would be gone in all 30 ballparks according to StatCast.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so it's will it 30 for 30, basically.
That's interesting. I have a feeling this is going to be a difficult one, but
there are some tricky ones.
Yeah,
there are some ones that I would definitely get wrong if I were playing this game. But it's going to be on Chris today.
Yeah,
I'm it's excited. 8 fly balls. I will give you. I'm making this up on the fly. I will give you 3 lifelines where you can ask the distance of the home run.
Okay, yeah.
How
3 lifelines,
sound?
8 fly balls. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So you should be looking at Spencer Arrighetti right now. Is that what you're seeing, Chris?
That's what I'm seeing.
All right. So let's get started immediately. Again, Above Replacement Radio on YouTube to watch these along with us, and you can play along with us as well. So let's get into it with fly ball number 1, or home run number 1, I should say.
Would you be able to replay it? It skipped a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, it seemed to go in that area where the people were. And yeah, so that's to center field. We're at Great American, so I think that can kind of deceive us a little bit because it is a smaller ballpark, so it tends, the ball tends to go further over the wall than it would a normal ballpark. Although I don't know, center field seems like a standard measurement over there at Great American. I'm trying to think of where this might not be a home run. It's possibly not a home run in Colorado because it's 415 to center there and it kind of stays flat. It could not be a homer. Maybe at like Petco or something like that, where it's a little bit deeper in that area. Yeah, I'm thinking with the possibility of Colorado, I'm gonna say it's not 30 out of 30.
It was 30 out of 30.
Ah,
Yeah, the distance was 436 feet on that one.
okay.
So quite comfortably 30 for 30. But hey, we're warming up here. It's all right.
Yeah.
And we are on to fly ball number 2. Oh. Hang on a second. All right. We're going to screen share again. All right, so you should be looking at Tropicana Field with Cole Sands on the mound.
Yep. Yeah, so that's left field. I think that gets over the monster. And yeah, it's a large question of where where does Baltimore jut out? Because obviously, at Camden Yards there is that, it's way deep to left field, but around that foul pole area, it is actually kind of as shallow as it used to be. So there is the possibility it was pulled enough to where it could actually get into that area. And I'm trying to think of what other ballparks it might not be a home run at. I feel like it's deep enough to go out everywhere. So it's just a matter of if that clears at Camden Yards. Could you rewind to where? Yeah, can I watch that again? Thank you. I mean, yeah, that Baltimore, it's not out there that long. I'm gonna say it's not a home run in all 30.
And you would be correct. It is out at 29 out of 30. And of course, Baltimore's the one. Yeah, 365-foot home run from Johnny DeLuca. So that's not going to get the job done out there.
Yeah, and I guess it wasn't pulled enough to get into that area where it's like
that little, yeah,
where you only needed to hit it about 340 to get it out.
So you're 1 for 1. You are absolutely right on that one. And we are now going to fly ball. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you get the ballparks right or not.
Yeah.
It's just, is it 30 for 30, yes or no? So we are now on fly ball number 3. You should see Yordan Alvarez.
Yep. It's deep fly ball. Trying to spot where that ball went.
You want me to back it up?
Yes, please. Thank you. It's like caught up in the score. I'm trying to see where I might have gone second deck.
It was not second deck.
Okay, it was not second deck. So yeah, I'm trying to think, what are the deeper right center fields? Fenway comes to mind. I feel like that's at least reaching the bullpen at Fenway. Um, so I think yeah, I think it gets out at Fenway. Um, Colorado is another one where it's deeper. I think it's getting out there. I'm gonna say it is a home run in all 30.
You are incorrect, and I would have been as well. It doesn't get out of Fenway.
Oh,
That is a 369-foot home run, according to Statcast. Yeah, I would have thought that one got out at all ballparks too. I picked that one because, yeah, it was definitely a tough one to pick there.
yeah.
But nonetheless, we are now on to fly ball number 4. I'm going to share my screen in a second. You should be seeing Pete Alonso with
Yep.
Chris Martin on the mound. You got it?
Yep. That's to center field. Um, yeah, another interesting one. Uh, since I since we only have 5 home runs left and I have 3 lifelines, I'm gonna ask for the what is the distance on that one?
Yeah, it is. I believe it is 422 feet. That is correct. 422 feet.
So that's interesting. I feel like it might stay in at Colorado. It just depends how long it's kind of stays at that distance. I'm trying to think of the shape of Coors Field. Because that might be the one to hold it in. Um, and then if as far as other ones go, I feel like it's gone and obviously it's gone in most. Um, I'm gonna say not a home run in all 30.
It actually was.
Oh man.
Yeah, 422 gets the job done out in Colorado.
Yeah, I know it's
So
415, but obviously, you need more of a
yeah,
higher
because you need to
projected
clear the
distance.
fence.
Yeah.
No, that was a tough one. I mean, I tried to pick fringe ones as much as possible. So you're 1 for 4 here, but we could finish strong. We got fly ball number 5 coming up. You should see Kyle Schwarber in Toronto.
All right. That seemed to go into the bullpen area.
Just cleared it.
Just cleared it. I'm gonna say not a home run in all 30.
That's a quick response.
Yep.
It is incorrect. It was going at all 30. That is a 396-foot home run for Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, these all these ballparks
I know.
are creating a weird perspective. So I guess Toronto is just, yeah, I guess it's if it clears it enough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I feel like the fact that it landed in the first row of seats probably didn't help.
It did I would say it did not.
All right. So number 6, Willie Adames.
Down the right field line. What is the projected distance on that?
The projected distance is 372 feet.
Yeah, so that's tricky because I feel upon first glance, I was kind of like, no, that can't be out in all 30. But I'm trying to think. I just can't see that being out in Fenway unless it finds its way um on the way to that corner. Like not, it's not fully out in the corner. It could get out in Fenway if it's down the line enough. And then what are the other weird ones? I think it gets out in like Angel Stadium in that weird, corner area. Uh, yeah, 372. So it's just a matter of if it gets down the line enough at Fenway. And I feel like with how it was tailing, that might be the case. So I'm going to say it's gone in all 30.
It is not gone in all 30. Colorado holds it in.
Colorado.
Yeah.
All right. So I no longer cannot
I
get half
stumped
these
you
right.
here.
I feel like I've done
These are
I've
all
done well on like
I
the
picked
last.
good ones because like they're all very close.
Yeah, you're a good I guess in betting it would be a good line setter, or
Yeah. You're just getting BABIP'd here, really, is what's going on.
pretty much. Yeah. It's tough.
All right, so we have 2 fly balls left. You are 1-5, 1-4-6, whatever you want to call it, and you have Christian Walker in Kansas City.
See, that's a tough one because it seemed kind of lower. I feel like that's off the monster in Fenway. Yeah, and then it could. I mean, if it's gone in Kauffman, it has to be gone at most stadiums, obviously. It's 387 to left. But it could be off the monster at Fenway. However, Fenway is pretty shallow, so it didn't have to be up there for too long. I feel like just maybe I'm trying to play 2 steps ahead of you and try not to be quote unquote tricked. So I'm going to say it is gone in all 30.
And you're correct.
There we
That is
go.
gone in all 30. It is gone in Baltimore. Yeah, that was probably the one. But yeah, it was a 405-foot home run from Christian Walker. There's one more home run left, and I will say that you do have one more lifeline. So I'll just tell you up front, this next home run, this last one is it's 416 feet.
416. So where is it going to be hit?
We got
Where
Jeremy
will-
Pena hitting.
Yep. So yeah, obviously it clears Baltimore. I'm trying to think if this is a trick, where would it not be out? I think it has enough air to clear the monster.
416 feet.
416 to left center. I feel like that's got to be out everywhere. And if it's not, I would be willing to take the L on that. So yeah, I think it's gone in all 30.
Coors holds it in.
Coors.
Coors holds it in according to StatCast.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you said earlier it's 415, but you gotta clear that wall. 416 doesn't do it.
Yeah, but that was pulled pretty well.
I put that one last intentionally.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That was the hardest one because it's a trick because it's gone in Baltimore. That's the first one that you're thinking. And so it's like, okay, if it's gone in Baltimore, it's got to be gone everywhere. Coors does in fact hold that one in according to StatCast.
Yeah, so 250 today, which is above the MLB league average.
Yeah.
So that's one way to look at it. But yeah, I feel like I had done well in the previous 1 or 2 games, so I was due to drop off a little bit.
It's all right.
But yeah, that shall do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, want to watch those fly balls and see if you would have gotten them right, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio, and also check out all the playlists, guest interviews. We've had Foolish Bailey, Jeff Pass and Chris Rose, Sarah Langs, Mike Pedriello, among others, on the podcast before. So go for to check that out. Also, follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoy this one, and we hope to see you next time where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.